there.
The chicken.
Yes, the chicken with the kitchen. Yeah,
The chicken with the kitchen. Athena would
yes.
always say chicken when she said kitchen, and kitchen when she meant chicken.
So she gets it.
Goop and cat.
It's so hard, baby, to play nice, baby, to be so cool. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there in the hood, the motherhood. Thank God for Starbucks.
See, look, when I told you the other day, I'm like, oh, I'm having tea. It'll taste delicious, but do fucking nothing for me.
But you can still have I think your max is it's 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, I try to razzle dazzle it and drink black tea or green tea, because it has caffeinated properties. That shit doesn't do shit. Okay,
if you do black tea, you got to do it proper. You have to do
yes.
2 or 3 bags. You have to do
yes,
it
I do a minimum of 2 bags. I can't do 1 tea bag,
and you got to let it sit.
That really didn't sound right, but I can't do 1 bag of tea at a time.
Right, no.
I need at least 2 or 3 bags of tea. Some teas, it'll be 3, but some are strong enough that you can be okay with 2. But that 1 bag of tea, I'm going to say it again. That 1 bag of tea life is not for me. It does nothing. And then it's just like I'm drinking semi-flavored water.
Yeah.
But yes, when I do go out to Starbucks, sometimes I do get the caffeine. But I just feel at this point, I just need something intravenous. Maybe at this point.
Yeah, just straight.
Just straight. I'm afraid of needles, but I need maybe a shot in the cheek. I don't know. And I'm not talking about no damn, what is it, B12? It gives you energy. No. I need some shit to hit my bloodstream and just take me places immediately because I'm tired. And being pregnant and anemic, it's not only are you growing a human, this lovely little parasitic host relationship that we have going on here, because that's what it is. Let's be real.
That's what
with anything else besides pregnancy, they would remove it. Okay. Love my little parasite though.
It's exactly. Maybe a parasite, but my parasite.
My parasite, and I'm its host. And that's okay. And then it'll rip out of me what Alien, right? When they break out of you. Just like that. That's what childbirth is. And they rip out of you like Alien after they're done feeding on you.
Welcome to the Gooped and Gagged podcast series. Season 2 is here, and it's like your ex sliding into your DMs for a second round, only this time it's actually worth your time. We're going to be talking about just having a baby and what happens when you have family that's expecting you to put them at the top of your priority list.
Yes, I love my little parasite. Parry. That's what I call her.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Hey, Parry. We're still undecided on the name, a little Parry.
Oh, really? Yeah. What has what has the tradition normally been when it comes to picking out names?
Just something that sounds appealing to me. Something that sounds very pretty. Something that I would want to be named. Would I name myself that? Would I be okay being called this name? How would that make me feel?
I like
to be
that.
called this name. How do I think they would feel? And I like to see them first. My husband's like, no, we don't need to see them. We do. I prefer to see them. You may have a name in mind, but then you look at them and you're like, no. They're not that. It happened with Drew, for example. We had a whole name for him. His name was Christian. Throughout my whole pregnancy with him. It's spelled Christian. This is pre-COVID, so I had him in 2017. And back then in the hospital, they started using Mom 365, which is a photo company. They'll come in and do a little baby shoot, do the birth announcements, cute pictures and everything. So, I got the customized package. We were rolling. Lady left, took his little outfit off. I got a costume for him and everything. I get a call 30 minutes after the photographer leaves, and he goes, how do you feel about the name Drew? I'm like, well, let me see if I can call these people back and have them change everything. And resubmit the paperwork that we sent to the hospital for, his birth certificate and everything like that. His name was Christian up until
Wait,
it wasn't.
who said, what do you think about Drew?
Andrew.
Oh my God.
He
that's
called
so
me on the
funny.
phone because he was back at the house at this point, and he's like, I really don't feel like I like the name Christian. And I'm like, huh, okay. And when we got the Mom 365 photographs back, some of the birth announcements did say Christian, and then they had to send me new ones that said Drew Alexander, not Christian Alexander. I still have Christian Alexander's birth announcements in my basement.
It no longer exists.
Who no longer exists, but he's a Drew. I mean, I could see him being a Chris too, because he's cool like that. I feel like Chris's are just like cool like that,
Right,
but he's a Drew, so it's cool. I mean, I like the name Drew as well, so it's not like I hated the name, but it's like you could have said this, since I feel like you've been having second thoughts about his name. So that's why I do like to see them, even though he feels, oh, you don't have to see them.
You're like, well, clearly
do.
we did.
Clearly we do, because you went around and fucking changed his name after we ordered the custom birth announcement. So yeah, I like to see them first. And like I said, something that just sounds, I don't know. And I like names that are kind of classic, but can be modern. Like, it kind of transcends time. I don't want to name
Jason is a great one, because it's
Jason.
actually
I mean, like, it's kind of
name.
consistent. It's an old name. Jason is. I feel like Drew's another one.
Yeah.
And even Aiden. Aiden has been around for a long
Yeah.
time.
These are
Sophia.
Old names. Yeah.
Yeah, like they've been around, and then they still keep coming back in popularity sometimes, and they age well. You know what I mean? It's like certain names, when you see people, it's like I feel like they were born old. Like Ruth.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they were born at 50. Like, the only baby Ruth I've ever met is the bar, the candy.
Yeah,
like baby Ruth. That's it.
That's what I feel like for what happened with Rafa, because we said, Jose Rafael, which is like a very like strong adult man name, and he comes out and he's this little, we didn't call him Jose, we didn't call him Rafa, we called him Bubba. That was it. We just called him Bubba because we couldn't call it, how do you cutify Jose Rafael?
He sounds like he has a mustache already, right? Like, he has on
Three Musketeers.
He has on slacks,
the flowy hair.
Oh, well, he had the flowy hair, and like the wind is blowing,
curls, and then he's got the little, and then he's got the
the little. She's hanging out with D'Artagnan
when he's thinking.
He's hanging out with D'Artagnan and all his little friends, but like Jose Rafael. I don't know. It sounds very novella. I feel like that name has to be said all together for maximum effect.
Maximum effect. It's a great name. He has an
does the wind blow when you say that? And he like walks in and he turns around.
There is a shift in the universe. The universe is like acknowledges. It's like, you can feel the universe.
I feel like when you say that name, it's like you have to gasp when you turn and like the wind is blowing. And it's like, yes. He's like, mama.
See, mama. What I love is that even though we called him Rafa his whole life, because in school they would always say Jose, they wouldn't say Jose Rafael. Sometimes they would, but unless there's like a note, because sometimes they ask you, like, does your child have a nickname or whatever?
Yeah, like preferred names, things like that.
Yeah, sometimes, but like even then they wouldn't always say it. And they would ask him like, oh, but since they would always ask him in class, Jose, here. So he always went by Jose. So outside of the house, everyone calls him Jose, which is so funny because, I mean, it's kind of like when your family has like your nickname for you, but like your family's the only one that calls you that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I do love that he kind of did that for himself. Like, we found out later, that's how he preferred to call himself. And even sometimes he's like, my name's Jose. And we're like,
interesting.
It almost, I mean, not
dual personalities.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there is a shade of it that feels similar to like when a child changes their pronouns, or like, it's just like, no, I'm they, and it's just so you have to adjust because while you want to respect that, you're still stuck in that routine. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like, I'll still be like, Jose, what do you want me to call you? You know
What do
what
you
I
want
mean?
me to
Like,
call you, boy?
yeah,
But
I'm
it's
like,
true. Like, I get it because I legally changed my first name because I hated my first name that much, and I always have hated my first
right.
name. So I just go by Vanessa. So people
What
from
is your story there? Hey everyone, just a quick reminder to follow us and share the Gooped and Gagged podcast with your friends. We promise spreading the word is way more fun than spreading STDs.
I hated that name so much, and I treat it like Voldemort. I just call it the other name that's dead, kind of deal. Like, don't call me
Wow.
that. Yeah, so I'm Vanessa. Legally changed my name, all of that, and it's like I don't expect my family to call me Vanessa. They call
Wait,
me
say
the
that
other
again. You
name.
do or don't want your family
I
to call
don't.
you?
That's weird for them.
Okay. Like, you get
I'm
it.
older. You know what I mean? It's like they've been calling me that name,
Yeah.
for so long, and it's just like, just don't call me that in public. And when you introduce me to people, you introduce me as Vanessa. Please don't call me that other name. That it doesn't bode well, like with my personality and how I like it and how I like to present myself. I fucking hate that. I hated that name. I
What?
hated it. I hated it. I
You
hated it. I
always
hated
hated
it.
that name?
Always. When I was younger, I would give myself other names all the time.
Really?
Children do that, like, oh, I want to be called this. Oh, I want to be called that. But no, I had a really deep disdain for this name and I hated it so much. And then I'm like, you know what? Instead of having like a preferred name or, I don't have to worry about them calling me that God for fucking sake and name in like college and they do like, attendance and things like that. Or even when you go into going to work. I have Vanessa on my resume. When I did a background check, of course, I disclosed like, oh, that's the name. And then issues with IT for them, like setting up my email address and things like, don't put that fucking name
Right,
on my
because
email.
they'll ask you, like, do you have any other names? If they do,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, because they do the background checks, that you have, what other names
Yep,
did you go by?
exactly. So in 2019, I officially changed my name to Vanessa.
Nice.
So
Well, congratulations, Vanessa.
thank you. Yes. Every time I hear the other name, it literally makes my asshole chitter. And not in a good way. Not like it, ooh, like for some reason Louis Vuitton decided to have a sale for the first time in its history chitter. I mean, like in disgust, chitter. Like don't say it. Like, shh, don't say that. Like, don't say that. It's like Voldemort, like in Harry Potter, like we don't say that name.
Yeah, we don't say that word.
Like, shh, the one who shan't be mentioned. That name. Gross. So I get it, and it's like I said, I don't expect my family, to call me that. They do know I changed my name though.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's weird, like for them. But when we're out, they normally don't say my name. Really anyway. Like Andrew, he knows he never called me that. My old name. He knows like
Has
how
he
much
ever accidentally called you that?
Maybe in the beginning, but he really makes a conscious effort to not call me that. If he calls me, especially in public, he doesn't say that. And he hated the name too. He's like, that name doesn't fit you. I'm like, right?
You're like, sold.
I like you.
I like you.
Like you're clean and you have common sense. I like you. This could work out for a little while, first husband. So it's like, but yeah, so I get it. I get where he's coming from. Like, but Rafa doesn't hate, his name.
Right.
He just prefers to be called, say, doesn't.
I'm sure there's like stuff that he associates with Rafa where it's like, he associates it to the boy growing up in a family, and
exactly
and being told what to do and, being told that he's doing something wrong. And, that's kind of what he associates with Rafa, but Jose.
And I have a cousin. It's the same thing. His name is Sean, but I've always called him Shawnee. Like that family has always called him Shawnee, but no one outside of the family can call him that. Everyone calls him Sean.
Yes. Yeah, because Shawnee is like, it's a little version of it. So my
Yeah.
name with my family was always Pili because Pili is the small version of Pilar. Pilar.
Pilar.
Yeah. So there's
I like the
Pilar and
first
then there's
version better. Pilar.
Pilar.
I like that
Ole.
way. Pilar just sounds so
Pilar.
Pilar. My name's Pilar. It's Pilar. You know.
Pilar. It honestly is never. Yeah, I mean, we've never lived anywhere where I could say my name or anybody would even pronounce my name like Pilar, unless it was in Spain. And my mom didn't even, it was actually my mom's name.
Right, you did say that. I remember you
Yeah.
saying that.
And she hated her name. She always, yeah. And the reason
Wait,
why, I know, right?
so my mentality of wanting to name my girls, especially something, or my son, something I'd want to be called. Like, you know what? I'm gonna pass on this burden. Fuck it. I had to deal with this shit, and she's gonna deal with it too. They're gonna call her Pilar, Pilar, Pilar.
In Boston, they say Pila. Yeah, you like that? So I've never had a problem with people mispronouncing my name. And I think that that's because I kind of disassociated in a little bit. I think there's some dissociation there.
Yeah, I
With
can
that.
understand that.
Yeah. And
It's
also,
like,
like, I didn't think I ever felt like I fit in, period. So my name just kind of fit the bill.
okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Like,
So it
kind
was
of
always,
just solidify that.
totally. The reason my mom did not like her name, though, had to do with the fact that in Spain, everyone's name is Pilar. It's like Bob in
Oh,
United
okay.
States.
It's like the Jessica,
Yes, exactly.
or Amanda, or from like,
Or
if this was like the
Sarah.
80s,
Yeah.
it was Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's
Exactly.
name.
Exactly.
Okay, your name is
Yeah,
James or Jim.
exactly. In Spain, so she grew up with Franco, who was the dictator, who was really tight with Opus Dei, who is like which was a really zealous uh, interpretation of Christianity, of Catholicism.
Okay,
And
that built character.
yeah,
Awesome.
built character. So this is the law. Nobody could name their child anything that wasn't ordained by the Catholic Church. So basically a saint's name. Yeah. And I mean, they were saying like the Hail Marys in school and everything. So it was like it was a Christian society.
Very
Yeah,
Catholic.
very, very Catholic.
Very Roman Catholic. Wow.
Oh my God. Like Opus Dei was, it actually talks about it in Dan Brown's like Angels and Demons book. He talks about
okay.
Opus
Which
Dei,
one of
and
my
they
favorite
like
books.
the self-flogging.
Yes,
and
yes.
Yeah, so that's Opus Dei. Opus Dei is like, and Franco was like really into that shit. He was like very, like, he just, yeah, that was like,
Oh,
yeah, we need order, we need traditionalism, we need, anyways. So,
hey, psycho. Hey,
right.
no offense to the
So,
Frankonites or whatever you want to call the people who
I
supported
mean,
him.
as dictators, they're like, I like blue. Everyone wear blue.
You're like, okay.
Okay.
It's given King Jong, but it's okay.
Exactly. So anyway,
Wow.
Pilar was one of those names where it was like Maria del Pilar, Mary of the Pillar. So Pilar was or like, it would be like, look, I can't think of any other names. Like it would just be all Christian names, but it would be like the
Magdalena
or Pilar.
Magdalena, right?
What is it? Magdalena.
Magdalena.
Yeah, Magdalena. And everyone had like two first names.
Of course. That's why I'm
Maria-
disappointed that you don't have multiple names. That's why I gave you your name.
Yeah, nobody in my family has.
I don't like that.
Two first names. Yeah, nobody. And that's why I gave Rafa two first names, because I was like, let's do this right.
Yeah, I'm like, what kind of, and like you're like from like ground zero of like Latina over there, like Spain, and like you don't have a middle name.
Yeah, we don't have middle names. Well, middle names were not a thing, but two first names.
Okay.
And I think that that's what it was, is that basically my parents, well, my dad was in the service, but he was
Mhm.
like, he was, he was born in Mexico. He didn't leave until he was 16. He was always kind of trying to leave that
Mhm.
persona of being Mexican, which, there's a lot to unpack there. But anyways, so even when it came to like our names and came to even like learning Spanish, at first he was very resistant, because he wanted us to be able to like integrate more easily. And
Yeah.
my mom, she's from the south of Spain. Our family
Okay.
from in Spain is from the south of Spain, which is, in my opinion, like the cool part of Spain. It's like the
She's not
loud.
biased,
They're
people. She's not biased. In
yeah.
her opinion, it's the cool part.
I'm not biased at
Not
all.
biased. No. That's the
They
cool part.
are. They're basically the Latinos of Spain. So they're
Okay.
loud. They like to party. They're very
Okay.
like, people discriminate against them. They're considered like, the uneducated
Or like
homies.
the lower
Exactly.
echelon kind of deal in their
Right.
eyes. Even though
Totally.
that's not
But
true.
exactly. But everybody goes there for the summers. Everybody goes there for
Okay.
vacation. So it's just one of those things that's culturally. This is all something I learned after meeting Sark, by the way, because he grew up in it, or he didn't grow up, but he moved after he was 18, when they escaped Russia, he moved to Bilbao.
People, this is funny for context. Her husband is Russian, like she just said. So she learned more about her Spanish culture from her expat escapee, from Russia, Russian husband and his family. But continue, we digress.
Because we'd never been to the north. I literally thought, I was like, all Spanish people are like this, or all loud and annoying.
No, like
And
in my mind, but like Spaniards, they're very like, reserved and like
which is
you're like, no, honey, you're like not in the south. In the north, yes. So the Russians moved to the north of Spain. Is it because they like the north of things? Because they're used to it? They think it would be colder?
No, it's because his dad got a job with the Bilbao Orchestra. So his dad's a violinist. Very Russian.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no wonder they moved to the north. Sends the pinky. He's like, those southerners do not have the class. They're crass for my violin.
Oh my God. But yeah.
He's like a Baryshnikov on strings. Okay.
They're really good. I mean, both his parents were professional
Really?
violinists. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And his brother got like a full scholarship to like this boarding school, musical boarding school in London when he was like 12 or something.
What?
They sent him there full time, and he didn't grow up really with his family. Yeah. I mean, but it was like his life was violent.
Does he still live in London? Is he still there now?
He doesn't. No, he actually now works also at the Bilbao Orchestra. With
Okay.
his dad. Yeah. And they're in Bilbao, but his ex-partner, she is also a violinist. She works for the Paris Orchestra. I mean, it's like, this is like their world. Like, so
Oh
Sark,
my gosh.
yeah, so Sark
You might have like a little Mozart on your hand over there.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, but Sark, they tried to get him into it because he was the firstborn.
Uh-huh.
And Sark always says he was like a really good kid. He was always like, he always followed the rules. He never lied. I mean, he's also like on the spectrum. So he like, it's not hard to believe. Like,
Right, he's very direct anyway.
he's
so it
very
doesn't
direct,
matter.
but he's also very like, well, why wouldn't you follow the rules? And I'm like,
Right.
because you're 16 and wild. Like, I don't know. And he's like,
Because
that didn't happen.
south of France, south of Spain, duh, wild.
Duh. Yeah, exactly. But it was the one thing he was adamant about not doing that his parents wanted. And they tried to force him when he was like 4 years old. And it was the one thing that he fought tooth and nail. He did not want to do. So they stopped when he was 5. And they said, you know what? We have your brother.
Like, you know what? We're going to roll with this one. Let's see if this one has the juice.
And he did. He
Does
did.
Sark play any instruments, or he just not into it at all?
He's not. No, he's not. But I mean, he would be really good at it. But he's just
If he
not.
wanted to do it, he
He's
just
more of
doesn't
an
want to do it.
athlete. Yeah, he's more of an
Okay.
athlete. He's more of and yeah. I
I
mean, in
mean,
fact,
Russia takes kindly to athletes. So it's like,
well, literally, so in Russia, they would do when you turn 12, they would
uh-huh.
do mandatory. Your physicals would also be done by the military, so they would start
Oh,
seeing
wow.
where you're at, and they would assign to you what branch of the military you would be going into when you became of age. And so they
Oh,
had
shit.
him very early on going into special forces.
What kind of Black Widow shit? They had this man up in a mountain somewhere training in the fucking snow when he was like 14. Like this is 300 or something, or he's some KGB operative. He's like, hey, like, come with
And
us.
now you see him and you're like, oh my, like he's like literally, we joke that because where he was born, it actually doesn't exist anymore. It was a military base. It was like it was created.
It doesn't exist anymore.
It literally doesn't exist anymore.
That's what they tell you. Because it's not in the map. You think it doesn't
It's
exist
not on the
anymore?
map. It's literally not on the map. So he has to say he's from another city that was nearby because there's no other, that doesn't exist anymore. So it was a military, like everything there was like, it was like a planned town, everything, because everything they did was to service like the nuclear station that was
Okay,
there.
I was gonna say this is some Las
Yeah.
Vegas, like Nevada shit when they were doing like the testing with Oppenheimer.
Like Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
the fuck?
yeah. Basically, I mean, maybe,
Did
but
they inject?
we always joked that like low key they injected his mom with
Yeah.
super serum
Seriously, I'm telling you, like
because
at the age of 12 too, they probably were like, "Oh, you're good at gymnastics. Come here, little Russian girl or boy.
yeah,
You're gonna be fucking flipping for the country.
you need to be
Ice
doing flip.
skaters.
You're the flipper,
You're the flipper. You're the skater.
you're the shooter.
Hockey. And you're the shooter. Anything like, okay, you're the shooter. You flip well. We're gonna
I'm gonna
we're
put you
gonna
over there.
keep you there,
Well,
and you're
and
agile. Mm.
let's just make this more interesting. So, yeah, Sark just told me the other day. I like how this is all turning into like, let's learn about Russia, USSR.
Right.
So, literally, I just learned of this the other day. That when you got out of school,
Mhm.
you
Like high
didn't
school.
yeah, when you got out of
Okay.
school, like, or when you got out of college, when you got out
Okay.
of like, you said what you're going to do, basically, like which
Mhm.
what area of expertise you want to follow, and no one would look for jobs. You were assigned jobs because it was communism. So there was no competitive job market. It was literally, and everyone got paid the same for that role. So they would say, "Oh, you want to be a teacher? There's a role for your position in this city." And so you would get sent there, and that's where you would work. That's what you would do.
Oh, so like a Brave New World kind of deal.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. No, I mean, that's communism. But I had no idea. I mean, you think like obviously it's communism. Okay, that makes sense in hindsight, but you don't think about that, right? You don't think about like there. I mean, that's how it worked. But by the time, so when he was 16 or 17, that's when Putin came into power.
Oh.
And all like the mafia and the government were starting to, there was a huge vacuum
Mm.
in like law enforcement and the military and all of this. So the mafia actually came in to fill that. So so it was very, if you were a politician, you were in the mafia, you were like all these things.
Did they have job fairs for like the Russian mob, or like
You're like, I'm interested.
like how does it work? Because we have a huge Russian population here in New York, and it's
Right.
like
Which is something that
area,
Sark,
little Odessa.
yes, Sark is like adamant because we were talking about that, how like how unique the Russian experience is, and like from
Yeah.
Russia. I mean, you're one step removed from like North Korea, basically, because their culture was so insulated and still
Mm-hmm.
is. And
Very.
but then, you have all this access to outside stuff, but again, the culture is incredibly insulated. And then if you left Russia, even if
Mm-hmm.
you did it when you're a teenager, there's still all these influences and like kind of like cultural strings attached to even how you
Yeah.
identify yourself, how you talk about where you're from. And we were talking about like, there's little Tokyo or little, Japan
Little
or little
Italy,
China or little
Chinatown.
Italy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's crazy that, in like big metropolitan cities where it's typical to have, you don't have like a little Russia. And he goes, actually, there's a little Russia in New York. And you
Yep.
could see like the light in his face. He was just like, and they said that it's like, it's right out. It's like very old Moscow, very old like country,
Yes.
from the 80s. It's and he was just like so excited. He was, I'm like, well,
Yeah,
we
there's
have to
quite a
go.
few. Little Odessa's the biggest, but
Mm.
all throughout like New York City and even Long Island, you will have enclaves of like super Russian.
Yeah.
Like they are very tight knit, and
Yeah.
Brighton Beach is where Little Odessa is, in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
They have people who have been in for decades and they don't speak English.
Yeah.
They don't speak any English. They only speak Russian.
Yeah.
And they don't have to speak English because the
Right.
community is
Right.
that tight knit. And if you're an outsider,
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can go there and shop there.
Right.
But like if cops or something go there, it's like
Yeah. They got to know the language.
mute. Everything's on mute. Like, no, we don't. Mm-mm. It's like, no, it's very tight knit. And it's like, it's there in Russia. It's very, very, very tight knit community.
As your hosts for the hour, we just want to thank you for listening and taking the time to hang out with us. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and share the Gooped and Gagged podcast with your crew. Sharing is caring, except, of course, when it comes to secrets. But sharing this podcast, well, I mean, that chisme is worth spilling.
Russia, they're very resilient. I feel like they're very resilient people. Overall, especially, you hear about them like in wartime, even before wartime now, like during World War II, for example, or even World War I. Like they've been through a lot. They've just been through a lot of shit.
And people I mean, only recently now when we're like, trying to understand like who is Putin? Why is Russia, in the position that it's in? What is the history of Russia? Which is something that the West has always kind of, conveniently been like, let's not learn about Russia,
Right.
Iron Curtain, all this stuff, and, but always kind of removed any history of Russia really from any history books of learning.
Luckily, we did learn. I feel like it depends on where you live too.
Yeah.
I feel like we did learn a lot about them. But yeah, we spoke about that. I think it might have been high school at this point because all the men like died. Like it was not all of them, but it was like what, million of like Russian men, and some women died too.
It was
they died. It was a lot.
Look it up right now.
It was like, from what I remember, could be wrong, like 3 million or something. And I'm like, well, damn.
Russian
like
over too. No,
that is a significant portion. Was it
20
more?
to 27 million.
Well, fuck. So I said like 1%. Awesome. But so they like basically our whole country was slaughtered.
Yeah, literally. And that's why there's a lot of like, not bitterness. I mean, it is bitterness, but it's when it's at first it's bitterness, but over, generations, it becomes just resilience. It just becomes a sense of survival.
Because World War I and II, they weren't that far apart. And it's like they got the shit under the stick both wars, and it came to casualties.
Russians died in World War I.
A lot. And then they don't speak about it. They have like a lot of Russian, females, like snipers and, active duty. They were out there fucking too. So it's like the Russians don't fuck with the Russians. It's what it all comes down to.
I mean, they had to. They didn't, because, I mean.
Everybody was dead. Like,
Everybody was dead. And also, like, Stalin he was slaughtering his own people. That's why
yeah,
so
he
many
wasn't.
people
They weren't
died,
a big
because
fan of him.
they were just like, go, and if you turn your back, if you come back, we'll shoot you.
No pressure. Like either I go die over here
Yeah.
or freeze to death,
Yeah.
or I just get shot right now. And it's like,
Yeah. But then your family wouldn't get paid.
then your family's fucked. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, so I'm just gonna take this little sweater coat that they gave me and
A
just,
sweater.
I mean, it was cold as fuck. And they
You
out
take
there.
a t-shirt.
Yeah, like in a windbreaker. Basically, you expose to the elements. It's cold as fuck. They didn't have
Yeah.
any supplies or anything.
Yeah.
They just out there fucking freezing.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm
They were like
like,
huskies, like just sleeping in the snow.
yeah, like my feet are wet and I'm frozen, and they die from the elements too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like it's cold as fuck, and
Yeah.
all we have. Oh, good, this person's dead. I'm gonna take their coat. You know what I'm saying? And their boots and their clothes. Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
math isn't
It's
mathing right
terrible.
now.
It's
It was
terrible.
awful, and it's like.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy they're kind of finally getting to a place where it's
I don't know. I mean,
better.
yeah.
I don't know what we can say better at. It's like,
Yeah.
at least if they want to kill you, they do it more overtly.
Yes and no. I mean, there's a lot of what is it? The FSB, which is the KGB.
The KGB, they just
Yeah.
switched the fucking initials around. It's like, okay. Like, all right, you changed the letters. So now
Okay,
it's
FSB, yeah. So
you like,
I mean, they still do a lot of covert stuff. A great podcast, which I sent to you, is To Die
yes,
For. To Die For is
perfect for Russia.
an amazing podcast, and it's actually around this woman who was in the FSB.
Mm.
And I mean, they talk, even though in the beginning it's really, really, really hard to listen to because she experienced sexual assault. She
Right.
experiences a lot of terrible, terrible things. But it goes also into all the historical understandings of like how complex and complicated and scary and, you know, just multi-layered the Russian history, culture, you know, the powers, the layers of power and stuff like that. So it's really, 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 really great listen to Die For. And she actually, there's something called sexpionage, which is basically like a Red Sparrow style, like that whole, you know, world. And that's what she was basically. She didn't call her they call them, actually they did call them sparrows.
Whoa.
They used to call them something else.
Oh, damn.
I forgot what but yeah, it's a really, really good listen, like really good listen. But
Wow.
yeah, so still sucks. I mean, obviously they're at war, and they're at war for a terrible reason, and they're basically all brainwashed. The misinformation over there is like 70%. They can't watch anything. Yeah, they can't watch anything other than national, like what's approved
What's given to them.
which is exactly.
And the internet is very monitored as well.
Yeah, well, and not everyone can afford or has access to like the internet or like what to, you know, it's a very old also community culture. So, and you know, just the propaganda is just so good. And Putin Putin is so believable. Like, because Sark speaks Russian, we watch all the news in Russian, and we'd be watching these televised events that he would have like at the beginning of the war. He is so believable, and he is so like, I mean, he really comes off as a great leader. Like, no joke, he really comes off as a great leader.
No, he does. Like
he comes off as trying to be transparent, asking his cabinet questions, and being inquisitive.
Their rehearsed answers.
All that shit is scripted. The whole thing is
rehearsed. You know what I'm saying? Is that their rehearsed answers? They blink on cue. Blink. Smile. Clap. It's like they rehearsed this. Like,
literally,
do not blink wrong, or you may end up poisoned on accident on
Oh,
purpose.
100%. 100%.
Because
100%.
Mr. P loves poison. Like,
So yeah.
but the both said it.
So thank you
I
for
don't
joining
know.
us for this Russian insider look.
I know, like we did like a whole defector to Russia. I blame it on watching Rocky 4 like 2 weeks ago, which is one of my
Did
favorite
you? Well, I've
Rockies.
been listening to this podcast to die for, and I'm married
Rocky
to a
4 is
Russian.
one of my favorite movies of all time. Like Rocky 4 is my shit.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the best. It's like of the Rockies, it is either the
Rocky
best.
4 is the best Rocky.
Yeah,
And then Rocky 3.
Right. It's the most memorable. It's the most like
Mhm.
Rocky 4 is the most like.
When you think of Rocky, you think of Drago and Rocky.
Yeah.
And then you think of Clubber Lang, which is what is his name? Mr. T.
Yes.
Mr. T. I pity the fool. You know, that's the second one. So that's Rocky 3 because that has Eye of the Tiger.
Right. Oh, wow. I think
Rocky 3 is Eye of the Tiger Rocky, where he got trained by Apollo Creed to beat Clubber Lang. So it's Rocky 4, then Rocky 3, Rocky 1, Rocky 2. The fifth one never happened.
Right.
I don't know that.
It never happened.
It didn't.
Did you watch the Sylvester Stallone documentary that came out recently? It was like called, I think it was called Stallone or something like that.
No, I'm going to look it up. I like him.
When I tell you, I'm a big fan, but I didn't know like so much from like 40% of what they had in there. I didn't know he wrote all the Rocky.
Oh, yes. He wrote Rocky, yes.
I didn't know this.
Yes, he did. That I know.
He was a
big
time writer
in the movie that never happened, Rocky 5.
Right.
Somehow his son was in a movie that didn't happen, but he was there.
But he wrote
yes,
a lot. I mean, basically, because that was his whole thing was that if you can't get cast, then cast yourself in the role for you. So it was basically like he wrote his roles.
He said, fuck it. I mean, he's like, I'm a starve anyway.
Yeah.
So I might as well shoot my shot and put it out there and see what happens. I felt that. I'm like,
yeah,
that's right, Sly. You get out there and you do you, boo.
My favorite Stallone movie though is Tango and Cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
Have you ever watched that one?
I did. I liked Rambo.
Yeah.
The newer one that came out like 2012 when they snatched the guy's throat out. It was really good.
Ooh, I need to watch that. I haven't watched it.
You do. It was like so good. And it's like gratuitous, just like violence.
Your favorite.
I thought that he snatched the man's throat and they showed it too. Oh, they didn't sugarcoat it. No. He dug deep through it. John Rambo was going off. I think it's Rambo 6 or something. Whatever one came out in like 2012 or whatever, something in the 2010s. Oh, he was like,
all right, we'll have to.
This man, he was
unhinged
about that action, and they didn't. I'm surprised they got a rated R, like an R rating. So I'm like, this is not NC-17. The violence. I mean, but it was so
good. Ooh, okay. I have to
add that to the list. I like, like action movies and horror and things like that.
I love action. 90s action is my favorite.
Oh yeah, 90s action. It's like an 80. It's like over the top. Like that movie Shoot 'Em Up that came out in like 2006 with Clive Owen. It's called Shoot 'Em Up, and it's an action movie, and it was like a mockery of like how over the top some action movies can really be and how unrealistic it is.
I love that.
That was like the point of it. So it was really good. I enjoyed Shoot 'Em Up as well.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna watch Shoot 'Em Up.
And watch Nobody. That's also a good movie to watch.
Nobody?
Yeah, it came out a few years ago.
Nobody. Really 2021. Good.
Yes, Nobody.
Oh, I love this guy. Yeah.
Yes, it's a really good movie. Like he seems like it's the normal life, running the mill. People just keep shitting on him, but he's the wrong one to shit on. So
I love it. Bob Odenkirk. He's the dude who did come on. I'm literally looking at his stuff.
And I see him in other things. So I know like he's been in so many things.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul, yes. That's his most recent role. It's such a good movie. I think Christopher Lloyd is in it as his dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, just twist my arm then.
It's a good movie. You have to watch it. You
I'm
really do.
excited.
And
Okay.
we always deviate, but we're going to get to the question.
So speaking of violence,
Yes. I love the segue. Speaking of violence.
again, we want to thank you for listening. It really means the world to us. If you want to, you can also check out our page, goopedandgag.com. You'll find episodes there, contact info, and also partnership opportunities. How do I tell my family we don't have room at our house? My dad and stepmom want to stay for a week or two after what does LO mean?
Little one.
Little one. After my little one is born, but I have a small house where our guest room has been converted to the nursery now. They keep talking about how they're going to stay at my place. But how do I get it across to them that we don't have room for them? They also want to bring their foreign exchange student along, and I don't know if I'm really comfortable with a stranger being around my little one so young. My sister lives in town too, but also does not want to host them as she works in the NICU and doesn't have a great relationship with our dad in the first place. She also doesn't want the pressure of playing hostess for them and cooking, etc. This is probably such a silly question, but it's been causing me a lot of stress because every time I gently explain we don't have room, my dad says, "You'll just have to figure it out." So,
And Dad would just have to kiss my ass. Like, no. And from the sister not even wanting them to be there, that says a lot. And the fact that the sister is worried that she'd have to entertain and cater to these grown-ass people, that's a problem right there. Because if you're coming to stay and visit someone, especially as an adult, why should I have to feed you and cater to and entertain you? No. And no. Just no. And like, I feel like the father doesn't understand what boundaries are, or he doesn't respect them enough. And that's why the other sister doesn't like him. Well, I don't think she likes him. But that's just me, and I could see why. And it's not a silly question. And he's used to her being a pushover, and he feels that he can force her to figure this out. But no, his wife, and fucking Helga from Sweden or whoever, wherever they're from, could fucking go to an Airbnb or a hotel, or I'll catch them on the flip side. We can do FaceTime or Zoom, because no. No. What are you gonna sleep in my ass? No. Like, I said there's no space, right? You can just wiggle up there. I mean, just because I just push up and down my uterus doesn't mean that there's room inside of said uterus. Like, there's no space here. And the fact that they're that rude, or just like, just so ignorant to the fact that, like, no, then they don't need to be there. And you don't need that energy around you or your child anyway. Because I know in the postpartum period, it's a lot mentally, and you need people there that are going to be supportive, and that'll be helpful. And you don't even know this fucking foreign exchange student. Why are you in my house? My children are lucky they're able to be in my house when I bring home a new one. I Lysol everybody get away. Don't come near here. No.
The whole body like a sunscreen.
The whole body, like, literally, like, I have a can. They make fun of me. I have like 2 air purifiers going, a can of Lysol on each side, hand sanitizer in every room, and wipes and everything. And people come close, I spray them. I'm like, did you wash your hands? Okay. Don't touch her finger. Don't touch fingers. Don't touch face. Don't touch mouth. If you want to give them a kiss on the back of the head. No. I don't even touch their fingers. Because I'm afraid, you have germs in your fingers, they'll put it in their mouths. And there's so many stories you hear of babies that get, like, someone kisses them in the mouth and the person had like herpes type 1.
Right.
And then they get very sick, like their brain swells and they die, or anything, any type of illness, and it could happen. It's a real thing. No. Okay. Foreign exchange student, which means foreign bodies and foreign person. And not just because you are foreign. I don't know you, but you're foreign to me. And then the father and stepmother, I think they said it was, no, she needs to shut that shit all the way down. I'm just like, it's above me now. I don't know if you want to come, you can. You can stay at an Airbnb, stay at a hotel, drive. I don't give a fuck where you stay. You're not staying in here. There's no space for you in here. And in fact, you're going to fix your lips and tell me that I'll figure it out. Oh, I am going to figure it the fuck out. I got an answer for that. Your ass is not coming here. I figured it out. See, problem solved. Figure it out. Done. Figured out.
Yeah,
Your ass
I figured
isn't
it
coming.
out. You're not staying here. That's how I
Wow,
figured it out.
groundbreaking. Look at that. See how easy that was? But see,
Yeah.
I understand setting boundaries with people. Because what you're not going to do is play in my face and not
Well,
come
you
to my
also
house.
have, I feel like having kids, it gives you a better backbone when
This is
maybe
true.
before you didn't. Like, this
No.
definitely.
No.
I'll say my sister, really good example. She
Uh-huh.
would always, like, she told me, we were having this conversation about how, like, she had a tendency to be a bit of a pushover when it came to a certain person. And after she had her kids, though, all of a sudden she was like tiger mommy. She was like, I don't know where this
Backbone
came from.
initiated.
Yeah, backbone initiated.
It like just formed. It's like,
It was like, what is that robot movie? Not
Big Hero 6, Wally.
no, where the two guys or the two people have to be in the brain to control the whole thing.
Oh, Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's that sword that's like,
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
And I mean, luckily for me, I've always been that way, but it's not easy. You know what I mean? Especially if you have to deal with someone who has like an overbearing or over domineering personality, and that's just not your steez. Like that's just not your personality. But in this instance, for your own mental well-being and sanity, you need to toughen up, Buttercup. And I don't know her situation if she's married or with the father of the child, but maybe she can lean on him and say, we're not doing that. Because a lot of times the men or the other partner, they could be a bit more.
Yeah, whoever
direct.
didn't have the baby basically has to kind of step in as a proxy and be like a representative. Like this is not going to work, because they can take
and they're not related to them, so it's a little bit different too. It's like it's no stake in it. It's less personal because that's not their parent.
They don't have that.
That's her parent. Like that's not my daddy. I don't care about that man. I said no. It's not happening.
It's not happening.
And if you can't get over it, oh well.
I think the biggest thing with this is that she needs to be validated in how she's feeling, because the fact that she ends it with, basically diminishing the experience,
it's not that big of a
and being
deal,
like, I know this is silly and this is a silly question. That's someone who needs to be seen. That's someone who needs to be validated, and that's someone who needs to be told, like, no, you're not crazy and you're not a bad person for wanting to have strict standards. They come off to me as somebody who wants to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, probably
people pleaser.
Exactly. Probably seems like a lot of the bridges that her dad has burnt and the dad has probably like maybe leaned on her a couple times, in his own way. And she kind of takes it as like kind of her responsibility to be a bit of a peacemaker, or at least like not let things escalate, because she doesn't want to see things escalate. But she needs to be completely validated in the fact that, like, even though you've been in the position of keeping peace or of not being that bridge burner, you are allowed to set boundaries. And this definitely happened to me after I had Iskra, because, there was a lot of stuff going on. And I had people who were like, only recently, she's like 8-9 months now. Only recently have people started meeting her. And Sark's brother actually came after she was only a couple weeks old. And even then, and he's a great guy. came with his son. So, the kid's nephew,
Mhm.
and also great. But it was definitely one of those things where I was like, I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that. But I didn't want to see anybody. So I was like,
Right.
I told everyone before I had the baby,
Mhm.
because also, like, I was going through a lot of mental health issues. I was trying to, like, I was managing a lot up front. I'm going to be very clear to everyone. I don't know how I'm going to be. I don't know how I'm going to react. This is a
Mhm.
third baby. This is a lot.
Absolutely.
So
Like, it
yes,
doesn't matter if it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
yeah.
Every
There,
pregnancy is different. Every postpartum period is different.
yes. I'm
So,
told, and actually it's really interesting because I've been told I've had my my culture tried to be used against me
hmm.
in how I didn't want people around. And it was actually, if anybody tries to use, like, oh well, in this family, oh well, and because that's another thing that people will
Oh
try to put
yeah.
pressure on, just another layer to it of, like, this is family, like, you will accommodate. You
Mhm.
don't need to. I was told that because I'm Mexican, like, oh, well, if you're trying to embrace your Mexican culture, like, they let everybody over and they make a big party and blah, blah, blah. Guess what? That's actually not true. That's
It's
actually
not.
not true.
And it's not like you're trying to eat flour tortillas versus corn tortillas. This is totally different. Because then I would say you're Mexican. Get it together. That's disgusting.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
different.
Thank you. And actually, to that point, even in Mexican culture, there's something called the cuarentena, which means the 40 days.
Mhm.
Okay. And those 40 days are considered a sacred time for mother and baby. They're actually a time of peace and reflection where they aren't around anybody. So for at least the first 40 days, it's also the time that around the amount of time that the mother is still bleeding. So
Yeah.
there's this sort of, like, very insulated environment that's created. Yeah.
I'm now Mexican. And
Yay!
I'm going to
I
tell my
mean,
family
you
that we
are,
need to
like,
go
let's
away for
not kid
40.
ourselves.
Right. So I need to go away for 40 days. Just me and the baby.
Just me, baby.
Sophia, you can come too. Because she's my caregiver.
Yeah, Sophia
So we're
knows.
gonna leave for 40 days and we're gonna go somewhere tropical.
Summer tropical.
Um, yeah, and
Definitely,
I'm gonna heal.
there you go. Yeah, I approve.
Thank you, Mexico.
So basically, when it comes to people like this, you don't need to give them too much of a reason, except
Mhm.
because at the like the fact that there's a critical part to this that is being missed by the father, and in
Yeah.
these situations you can't assume that people are have the same perspective as you, and even if they're at a different perspective, you just need to do a little bit of work to give them some education on what
Mhm.
your priorities are, not what their priorities are, because their priorities are clearly different than yours. And if
And
you
they don't
want to
care about yours.
and if you want to diffuse, you say, these are, I'm going to educate you on my priorities right now. And that's
Mhm.
my newborn. That's my baby. Okay. So
Literally.
I'm not going to put you, someone who doesn't even live in my house, I'm not going to put you over my baby,
Right. And that's
period.
it.
And I apologize for how that might make you feel and that we can't accommodate, but there's only finite room. And my values and my priorities are also finite.
Right. I'm sorry if you feel offended by what I said, but I'm not sorry for what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not sorry, but I'm
Exactly.
sorry if you feel offended. Like, I'm sorry
Yeah.
if you feel offended.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry though. I'm just sorry you feel offended, which
Exactly.
is me saying to fuck off.
It's
Um, nicely. With
nicely.
that.
But
Nicely, you can't come here.
that's it.
And that's
That's
that.
it. And again, it's not like they live in your house. It's not someone you have to accommodate. This is not something where it's like
Another child.
yes, or an emergency or something. Like this is
Right. It's not an emergent situation. And
yeah,
no.
just no and no and no.
And like I feel like he's done this several times before, very overbearing. Yeah, and that's why the other sister is like, no.
Exactly. And if that's the game that your father wants to play, then eventually that's what's going to happen. So either this happens for you now, you have this conversation with your father now, or it's gonna just get harder
Right.
because it doesn't go away. And people like this, give an inch, take a mile. They will keep
Exactly.
going. So what
They'll
it
keep
like,
going.
so you have a baby and you also have to cater to them? I don't think so.
Right. It's like the sister said that she's worried about having to entertain them. I was like,
Yeah. It's
what are
like
they, 5?
a puppet show in the living
Like,
room
what?
in 10 minutes after everyone
I
gets
don't
their
even
snacks.
entertain my 5-year-old. You better beat it. All right. Nah.
Thank you for listening. It really means the world to us. If you want to, you can also check out our page, goopedandgag.com. You'll find episodes there, contact info, and also partnership opportunities. If you'd like to book a session with Vanessa for all your styling needs, you can book at realinvogue.com/services. That's real, ENVOGUE with the letter V.com/services. And if you'd like to book a session with me, Pilar, you can learn more at pilarlutfaliva.com. That's Pilar by first name, PILARLYUTFALIEVA.com. See you guys next time.
Goop and Gat.